Hello everyone, JR here, the host of Single Subs, and today I'm joined by my co-hosts, OldR,
Howdy,
Min,
Hi.
and Serin.
안녕하세요.
Today we'll be focusing on one of our favorite food topics, sandwiches. Let's start off with OldR. What's your all-time favorite sandwich?
my favorite sandwich is a BLT. For those who somehow don't know, BLT is short for bacon, lettuce, and tomato. There are only 3 confirmed ingredients, the rest is up to interpretation. I'm very fond of sandwiches in general, but this is my favorite. It's one of those foods I default to if I'm not sure about a new restaurant. I love going to somewhere new and getting a BLT sandwich that's toasted on bread. For fast food options, Subway works if you've got no other options. That was the situation I was in when I lived in Yeonsu. It was the closest thing to a decent sandwich. Maybe Yeonsu after 5 years has gotten their act together, but when I lived there in Incheon, decent sandwiches that were up to par did not exist. Korea has a lot of sweet bread, but savory sandwiches, at least in Incheon. Now, Seoul is a whole different ballgame, but in Incheon at least, that they did not do that.
Yeah, well, the Starbucks here do have something similar, with a twist. We call it a belt sandwich, and the E stands for egg, so it's got 4 ingredients.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I found that out to my horror one time. I almost threw up. I'm one of those people who absolutely hates eggs.
Oh, right, because you don't like eggs, right?
I hate it, yeah. I can't stand them. So, yeah, that was a disgusting discovery. So, yeah, Yeonsu, great for fried chicken and stews and bagels. They know what they're doing there. But sandwiches, no. If I were to rank fast food sandwiches, Subway would be almost dead last, if not dead last. If I hear someone's going to Subway, I'm like, ooh, I feel bad for them. But if you are wanting something fast and you're into bread and don't care too much for customizations, Jimmy John's is the way to go. I know a lot of people go there just for their bread, so makes sense. But my go-to place that is very controversial is the Portisubs chain, because in my experience, the more you add, the better. I typically get a BLT on white sub bread with mayo mustard mix, provolone, pickles, peppers, olives, onions, red wine vinegar, olive oil, salt, pepper, and oregano. I'm not fond of bacon normally, but I'm all about it in a sandwich regardless of how it's prepared. And in my opinion, the crispiness of bacon in a sandwich depends on how the vibe of the rest of the ingredients are, because if the rest of it is really toasted, then having it less crispy is better, but it also just depends. So I'm not one of those people who's it needs to be a certain level. No, it depends for me. And in my opinion, if you screw up a BLT, you have no business being in the kitchen. And that is my hot take for this episode.
Because, BLT is, the most basic type of sandwich you can ever make, I guess.
Well, and also because there's so many ways to customize it. So that's why, especially with a BLT, I find with that sandwich in particular, the more you add, especially with your vegetables, the better it is.
Mm.
Interesting. Because, I think of a BLT as a base. Because, you can make it a turkey club.
Yeah. Right,
I know you don't like the eggs, but adding an egg to it also, make it the Spanglish sandwich. There's a lot of different ways to go. And I think it's kind of underrated in that sense. That it's a good starting place to be at.
It's one of those, with any sandwich, it depends on what you've got on hand.
Mm-hmm.
But especially for BLT, I feel like it is open to interpretation. If you're just going to have, the main 3 ingredients, your bread has to be toasted. It's got to be changed or altered in some way to accommodate it.
Mm-hmm.
Come to think of it, I just remembered that we do have a BLT adjacent in the McDonald's.
And I've got beef with them.
I don't know if it's available in the McDonald's menus where you guys live, but Korea does have the bacon tomato deluxe. If the burger contains lettuce, it is basically a BLT version of a burger. No, it's been in our McDonald's for quite a while. It's one of the more popular menus.
When I lived in Korea, not only could you not get chicken nuggets as a meal, it was a side, which is bonkers, but they did not have that, to my knowledge.
I think nuggets aren't that popular as the burgers themselves because nuggets are more associated with kid food.
It is here too, but people are taking it more seriously lately.
I think people here prefer actual chicken, like actual fried chicken, or like maybe
Fair.
drumsticks over chicken nuggets, because I guess the texture can be kind of off-putting for a lot of people.
Which is a bummer because it's great. Now, is it good? No. But that is a whole separate discussion. I'm still mad at them, Korean McDonald's, for them not having chicken nuggets as a meal option until the BTS meal came around. And I was like, where was this in 2020? That made me so mad.
Well, honestly, I don't even order McDonald's anywhere. Like, for me, like, for burgers particularly, Mom's Touch is my go-to.
That's the one place that I didn't try, and I wanted to.
They
I think
actually
it was a
started
problem
off
with
as
Yo-Gyo.
a proper chicken chain store, and somehow, like, their burgers got more popular. They actually fry the chicken patties on the spot, so it usually takes about 10 minutes for your order to come out, but it's really good. I prefer chicken burgers in general because I don't like the flavors like of the beef patties they use. But Mom's Touch burgers, they got the crisp, they got the juicy meat, they have Cajun fries, which I'm a fan of, and the whole thing. I would say it's even more elite than the McDonald's chicken stuff in terms of everything.
Well, that's not that hard to do, but you don't go to McDonald's because it's high quality. Like, let's be honest, and we all are here on this food podcast. But you don't go to McDonald's for quality. You go to it because you're at the end of your rope and you've had a rough day and you need to go somewhere to eat. You don't go there because you're happy. Unless you're a kid.
That's true. They got a whole meal for that.
Yeah. Moving on. Min, what is your favorite sandwich?
So, where I'm from, 3 out of the 4 daily meals is likely to be bread-based. And most of them are eaten at home. We eat a lot of open-faced sandwiches, or smørbrød, eller brødskive, hvis du skal være fint på det. It's basically like slice of bread, put some toppings on it, and eat it. That's what you eat for breakfast. You pack it for your lunch, you have a hot dinner, and then you have evening food, which is usually more bread.
Quick question. You said 3 out of 4 daily meals.
Yes.
Explain,
We have
please.
4 daily meals.
Interesting.
So, breakfast, first meal, usually 6 a.m., 7 a.m., breakfast. Lunch, usually around like 11, 12. Dinner, usually around 3, 4, maybe 5-ish. And then you have evening food, kvälls, which is usually like a light little meal at 7, 8, depending on when you go to bed.
Wait, then what do you do for desserts?
Desserts is a Sunday only thing.
No!
I went to a dormitory school where I lived at the school. So we then got 4 meals, and that is a very typical, like, farmer meal plan, because then you would have food before milking your cows, take a little break, eat your lunch, do the dinner, milk the cows again, and then eat a little bit after. It's just an old tradition. Back in ye olden days, instead of bread, it was porridge, because bread is relatively new phenomenon by a couple 100 years, but So yeah, we work on a 4-meal basis here. If you go to the more like metropolitan places, it's usually 3, but if you go like in the middle of nowhere, it's 4 meals. You need them 4 meals. But yeah, usually open-faced sandwiches is basically the thing that we eat the most of. Instead of your hedonistic 2 pieces of bread sandwich, skobavel.
Excuse you, it's sturdier.
Dude, we take a piece of bread and we might even slice it in 2 to have 2 different toppings, or 4 to have 4 different toppings. We do love the toppings, or pålägg, because you don't have a good word for it.
Maybe not in English.
No, you don't. But we have pålägg, which basically directly translates to onlay, which is all the vast amount of stuff you can have on a piece of bread. Which is a lot. We love our bread toppings here. Like, there is Subway and Subway-esque chains, of course, but like, most people, they make their own nistapakke and bring it to lunch and eat it at lunch at school or work or whatever. It's usually bread. We like bread, okay? Bread is good.
Correct. Are you guys also big into bakeries? Like everywhere except the US nowadays, which is depressing.
There is usually the coffee shop with bakery added to them, and you can get baked goods at like any 7-Eleven and whatnot. So it's okay. It's not like the more Swedish or Danish, like, artisanal bakeries aren't that big because it's rough out there if you're not a big chain.
So I do know that Sweden has a little bit of like a bread/pastry culture with their semlor and cardamom buns and so on. But are those things kind of fika style bread also popular in Norway?
Yeah, we do have a lot of the same pastries. You will find Scandinavians all fighting each other over whose pastries are better. We have a lot of overlap. We don't have the specific fika thing, but like, if you go to a grandmother, she will serve you coffee and something sweet to eat and something not sweet. I don't remember the word for like meat or something
savory?
like.
Yeah.
Yes. You will get that. That is grandma life. They will give it to you.
I like that except for the coffee thing.
They might put cognac in the coffee, you know?
Boozy grandma?
Yeah, boozy grandmas. If you're on TikTok, Bestemor i farta, the best grandma you'll ever find on TikTok.
Oh, cute.
She's a great grandmother sharing her great grandmother knowledge, and she's glorious. Best TikTok account. But yeah, back to bread. We love bread. Most bread here is usually a medium to full grain type bread. Like, finer loaves does exist, but they're not popular. When I think of American bread, I think of the whitest, finest non-bread loaf that exists in the universe.
Wonder bread.
Yeah. You can find it here as toast bread.
That's not the same thing.
No, and also that's not what people usually go for. They usually go for the full grain bread, medium to full, because we have a bread scale. All pre-made breads that you buy in the grocery store will have a little mark on it that shows the fullness of whole grain in your bread. So yeah, usually medium to full grain are the good, and then you have the Danes that have like the super incredibly dense full bread. Rugbrød. Like full grain bread that is incredibly dense. It's really good. Like, the Danes got something going on there. But we're not like that intense on it, but still like a good medium to full grain bread is peak. But I love bread. Circling back to the actual topic, my favorite breakfast sandwich, because that's usually when I eat it if I have a fancy breakfast, is a medium grain bread with a little mayo, scrambled eggs, and smoked salmon on top. It's great. Glorious. I don't make it super often, because it's more of like we're celebrating. We're making that for breakfast. Or a lot of other stuff. But if you go out to either a cafe or something, you'll usually find the scrambled eggs with smoked salmon as a option. And if I'm out and about and stop by like a 7-Eleven and I'm hungry, I'll usually pick up a rundstykke, which I think translates to bread roll, which has been a word that always confuses me, but whatever. Because when I think of bread roll, I think of like sweet and like not full grain, like
soft.
Some of these rundstykker, you could kill a person with it if you left it out for a little bit. Like, they dense. Not all of them, of course. There is fine versions. You can usually always find fine bread version of a sandwich and a whole grain version of it. I usually go for the whole grain ones because that keeps you full longer. But anyway, got one of those with a little butter, a little salad, paprika, and white cheese. That's the one that I always like. This is safe. I will eat it. It will always be good. And you can get those pretty much anywhere. But if I'm gonna be like extra fancy and go out and get like, you have like a baguette that they cut in half and fill with stuff, the best one of those is with mayo and a salad, lots of shrimp, and a lemon veg. Oof, that's really elite. The only thing that I'm like super fine white bread loaf has a use for, it has to be summer. You have to sit on, not a deck, that's not what it's called, en brygge, where boats like park. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, a dock.
Dock, that's the word I was looking for. It gotta be summer, it's gotta be sunshine, early morning, you gotta be at a dock, have your super white bread, with some mayo and hella shrimp, and you gotta chill. That's top tier Scandinavian vibes right there. It's very good. So in my conclusion, I don't have a big favorite sandwich, but I do love bread. I'm shit at making bread, but I do make it, and it is still tasty as all hell. Get that bread.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
That was my piece. I got sidetracked, so...
We're all learning. That's the best thing, is that we all have different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're all learning from each other.
We're all confused and think each other's wrong. Your bread opinion's wrong.
When we meet, we are going to be having... Well, we've already discussed this, that someday we are going to meet each other in person. And we've all discussed, like, what foods are we going to introduce to each other. And we have lists, so...
Ugh.
I think it'd be funny if we took these episodes' foods and just did like a potluck.
Yeah. That would be the strangest potluck of them all.
I know, right? Oh, I love it.
It would have to be like an all-day thing, because if you think about like our soups...
That's true.
Soup is a good one.
Soup is a good one.
It is, but we would be having to figure out, like, we can't have the soup and the sandwiches in the same meal, because it'd be too filling.
No, but tomato soup and a sandwich? A grilled cheese sandwich with the tomato soup, dude?
We could just have a little bit of everything, so we don't get full of too soup.
My soft tofu soup is just way too much.
Anyway, JR, what's your sandwich of the day?
So I would call myself a sandwich connoisseur. So picking a favorite one was so hard, and I rotated through quite a few of them, like an Italian, a Philly cheesesteak, falafel if I wanted to go for the food of my people. I didn't ultimately. Just so many different options. But eventually I landed on the one I'm going to talk about today. So, a little bit of context. Back in the day, before like the pop culture fall of the Bon Appetit Test Kitchen, I don't know if any of you watched.
I used to.
Okay,
before the incident.
Before the incident. I was a huge fan. I would watch most of their videos, and I've actually tried quite a few of their recipes, but the one that I have used the most out of all of them is Chef Molly Baz's grilled chicken sandwich with Caesarish dressing. And yes, that is the actual title. I'm linking the written recipe in the doc. However, they have since put it behind a paywall, unfortunately, as is the way of the world nowadays. But I'm also linking a video of her making it, and she does give all of the measurements in that video, so if you have the patience, you'll be able to make it and, have everything down pat. So what I'm going to do is give the quickest breakdown of this recipe possible. You essentially make like a vinaigrette of olive oil, Dijon mustard, lemon, garlic, those little tiny pickles, like I think they're called cornichons, and just a few other ingredients. You emulsify it, make sure that it's mixed really well. Half of that is used to marinate the chicken for a few hours, and then the other half is mixed in with mayonnaise. Then the other thing you have to make is a fennel slaw, which is just fennel, olive oil, basil, lemon juice, salt, and pepper. So you toast up some soft buns. I think she uses brioche. However, I'm not a big fan of sweet buns, especially like in a savory dish. So I do like a less sweet brioche. I know that there's like levels to it. I'm not well versed in French breads, but whatever you like. Slap the mayo you made on it, place the chicken, which, you should have grilled at this point, the fennel slaw, a nice crisp tomato, a lettuce leaf, and it is probably one of the most perfect and refreshing sandwiches you will ever have. I have made them multiple times for family and friends, and everyone always loves them. So I strongly encourage you to try them for yourself. It's not particularly difficult. It has a lot of ingredients, I will give it that, but it's not hard to make, and it looks pretty impressive once you put it all together. So that's probably my favorite sandwich, at least of the moment, and it has been for a few years now.
Interesting.
Sounds so good, though.
Mm-hmm. I want one now.
I honestly don't know what to think of it because the fennel slaw, fennel is not a typical ingredient in Korea, so I have no idea what that tastes like.
Okay. I was debating whether to say, talk about the fennel itself because I feel like people will find it off-putting. Fennel is a little licoricey.
Okay.
Which is odd. but it works so well in the sandwich, and I don't think anyone will understand unless they try it, or unless they already like fennel. She actually, in the video, she does say you can switch it out for cabbage. So I think that would give it too different of a taste. I think the cabbage would be a little overpowering in my opinion, but there are options if the fennel is a turnoff for you.
Fennel is good though.
I agree.
I don't think I've ever tried it.
That's fair. It's not super common.
I do have fennel seeds because I have a little spice racket of my own, and I use it for maybe Indian or Southeast Asian cuisines, but I've never tried the actual fennel.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll look up the recipe and try with a regular cabbage coleslaw. I mean, it sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think cabbage would be bad at all. Okay, well, Serin, why don't you give us the final sandwich of the episode?
Okay, I have to admit, when I first got the topic of sandwiches, I didn't know what to choose at first. Because, first of all, Korea is not really a bread-based culture. Our food is based on rice. And anything with wheat was traditionally a luxury, mostly enjoyed by the royal courts or the really rich aristocrats because it had to be imported from other countries. And even nowadays, if you look through the local regional food, I think the only region that uses wheat-based stuff more often than rice is Jeju Island, only because it's an island based on volcanic rocks. So that means that land is not suitable for agriculture at all. So they had to rely on wheat, barley, other types of alternative grains rather than rice. So they use a lot of rice cake, they use a lot of barley cakes or even bread, after it became more popularized after the Japanese occupation. But the main peninsula, where I'm living, we mostly lived on rice. So bread wasn't particularly something I would eat every day. I still prefer rice over bread. It could be a controversial thing for some of you, but I stand by my preference. I could eat rice 3 times a day, but I don't think I would eat bread 3 times a day. And the most I have tried bread in Korea was simply toast with jam. And let's be honest, a jam can be a bit cloying after a few bites if you don't have a big sweet tooth. So for someone who mostly had bread in the form of toast with jam or jelly for your American listeners, with jam as the most common spread of choice, sandwiches were not really my favorite thing growing up. But as I grew up and then I moved around to other countries, and I started being introduced to new types of sandwiches and new types of bread, and then picking up baking as a little hobby of mine, I think I started tolerating more types of baked goods, not just bread, but also pastries and desserts, cakes and cookies. Anyway, back to the topic. If I were to introduce a type of sandwich I enjoy, I would always be the advocate for the Korean kirgori toast, which literally translates to street toast. Don't be fooled by the name because the toast in this particular term refers to a toasted sandwich. So when you go out to have a Korean toast, you don't get served just a single slice of toasted bread and whatever topping on top. You get a proper sandwich. Kirgori toast is a popular street food in Korea. It can be found at street stalls, in popular Korean street toast chains, and even highway rest stops. It consists of 2 slices of sandwich bread toasted on a flat griddle. The griddle is usually greased with margarine because of the cost, but you can always swap it for butter if you're making it from home. And the fillings can range from ham, vegetables, egg, or a slice of American cheese. The most classic and old school version would include an egg omelet filled with thinly shredded cabbage and carrot. Then it gets sprinkled with ketchup and a generous spoonful of granulated sugar on top. I was kind of wondering if you guys would kind of grimace at the concept of having ketchup with sugar, but I guess not.
Well, I know what this is, so I'm not super shocked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember seeing you guys talking about us having potatoes with sugar before. like as rest stop
Right.
snack.
Koreans love putting sugar on stuff, it seems like.
It's not on everything, but some of those combos are definitely not an American concept.
Right.
Yeah, like your corn dogs. Like, it's genuinely concerned me when I saw it as a snack with sugar. I was like, what's the matter with you folks? And then it's like, oh no, that's just par. You guys are really into the sweets. Yeah, it was just a shock to me, and because your savory stuff is great. So I thought you guys would just go all out with like foreign foods that were typically savory, like sandwiches and stuff, but you don't. And it's just, I know it's in you. I've seen your bagels, because that one New York bagel that's in Incheon, in Songdo, best bagel I've had. Keep in mind, I haven't been on the East Coast. I assume that they have the best in the world. I haven't been there, can't say anything about it. But that one New York bagel was just like, what is this world of bagels I've just been introduced to? But other than that,
to be honest, our bagels are also localized, and they're not the traditional bagels that only consist of the simplest ingredients. Like, ours is softer. Ours often has other ingredients to add flavor, and some of them can be sweet, some can be savory. But they're definitely not the bagels you would give to a Jewish person, like, without checking what they had before they met you. Because you know the kosher diet.
You don't want to be insulting. Yeah.
Anyway, the combination I've introduced so far, the egg omelet, cabbage, and ketchup and sugar, that version is often called the 옛날 toast or old time toast because it is the more classic type of option. It's also my mom's all-time favorite because this is the very version she grew up eating as a cheap breakfast or lunch back when she was a university student.
Has she had any recently?
Well, the modern chain stores don't really sell this exact type, but she will make it from scratch when she feels like having one. So this sort of sandwich is not only a symbol of having something westernized and quote-unquote classy kind of food, because it is all things Western for an average Korean person. So it is a sign of eating something westernized and fancy for such an inexpensive price. And that, in turn, it also becomes a form of nostalgia for the middle-aged, older generation people like her. I guess that's why she prefers it over wide options of sandwiches we get nowadays. So back in the 90s, 길거리 toast cost only about 300 Korean won. I don't know how that would cost in American dollars nowadays, but it would still be very cheap.
Pretty cheap. Yeah. It'd be like $2 or something like that.
Yeah. And so, back to the topic. As the 길거리 toast became a popular takeout menu, more ingredients like ham or cheese started getting included, and franchise chains like 이삭 toast or 석봉 toast emerged and provided more unique twists like chicken, bacon, or even 떡갈비. 떡갈bi is basically a Korean beef patty dish that originates from the Korean royal courts and is flavored sweet and savory from sweeteners and mostly pear juice and soy sauce. So my typical go-to for the 길거리 toast is 이삭 toast. So 이삭 toast would be transliterated to Isaac toast in English. 이삭 toast started off as a personal sandwich stall in 1995. This is the year I was born in, by the way, so it's just as old as me. And it expanded into a proper franchise in 2003. As you can see by the name, the founder is Christian. I won't go into too much into their history, but the one thing I do have to mention about them is their signature sauce. According to the founder, the sauce was proposed by a student who was passing by and tried their sandwich just one time and never visited the stall again. The ingredients for the sauce was partially suggested by that student. We don't know the exact ingredients, but one of the items that is known to the public is, surprisingly, kiwi fruit.
Interesting.
Wouldn't that be more expensive, though?
I honestly don't know, because kiwi was also a foreign, rather unfamiliar fruit back in the 90s and 2000s, so I kind of picture it as more of a unique, unprecedented combination for a sandwich. But nowadays, you can easily recreate it in the kitchen. to a very similar level by simmering kiwi salad dressing with sugar and mayonnaise. This kiwi dressing is really easy to find in the Korean grocery stores right now, but I can't say the same for overseas. But it is very delicious. It is sweet, fruity, a little bit tangy, and it has a little bit of that oily richness from the mayonnaise. Now, Isak Toast offers a very wide array of the menus, but the most standard menu would be their ham and cheese. It contains a slice of sandwich ham, cheddar cheese, the American cheese slices wrapped in plastic, by the way, not the proper deli cheese. We're not that fancy enough. And of course, their signature sauce and a square-shaped egg omelet with sweet corn.
There's a lot happening there. I'm interested, but it's an interesting mix of
I do
things.
know that a lot of people get surprised with sweet corn in pizza because that's another popular combination in Korea. But sweet corn in the egg omelet gives a nice texture and a little bit of that flavor from the sweet corn, so it goes pretty well together. Well, my opinion, but
yeah, it's one of those ingredients that I feel like I underestimated. I only used it as a side, but I did have corn on pizza when I was in Korea, and it did work. But it really depends on the other toppings around it, though. I think same with sandwiches. It depends on what else you're putting into it that determines whether it's appropriate. Kind of like how the whole debate about pineapple on pizza depends on what else you have.
Yeah, and corn cheese is a popular side menu for a drink here in Korea, so I guess we love our corn. Anyway, I typically go for the ham special, which additionally has shredded cabbage and sliced pickles. OldR, I know you have beef with our pickles, but
not all of your pickles. There's types of pickles I have beef with.
Well, the thing is, it's probably a Korean thing, but I don't really have a high tolerance for sour stuff.
I'm not too into it either. Fair enough.
So, when I try, the American dill pickles, and the European gherkins and stuff like that, I find it too sour for me. But the Korean ones have a little bit of sweetness to it. I know a lot of you might be thinking, sweet pickles, yuck. But the sweet is actually just enough to round off the sourness, so it's good for me.
Right.
So I typically go for the ham special. It has the cabbage, sliced pickles, and I know that the Yenar toast, my mom's favorite version, has the egg omelets. So in that version, you would typically mix the cabbage salad into the egg omelet. So the cabbage gets cooked and turns soft and sweet. But I prefer it the Isaac toast way, where the cabbage is separate and remains as a crispy salad. Because I like the texture. So the other menus in Isak Toast include fillings like bulgogi, bacon, crunchy soy sauce chicken, and even hashed potato. You can imagine a lot of different toppings. I know they've also included some sort of shrimp filling in for some time before it got discontinued. And depending on the branch, you can actually customize the add-ins. For example, skipping cheese. This is a step I often choose because I'm lactose intolerant. And in other branches, you can even request French bread instead of the standard sandwich bread. So both my mom and I make kirkari toast quite often from scratch because a lot of the ingredients are easy to find. And it's really easy to customize the ingredients to your preferences. I personally don't like the texture of sugar granules in my sandwich. My mom loves it, but I don't. So I opt to put any type of sauce or spread I just feel like having that day. Sometimes it could be the copycat Isak Toast sauce I mentioned earlier. Savory options could be as simple as ketchup and mustard, or maybe some sort of barbecue sauce if I'm feeling it. And if I want a spicy kick, I add hot sauce or a drizzle of sriracha. My favorite add-ins are an egg, a layer of ham or bacon, and a heaping handful of shredded cabbage and carrot salad. So one tip here is that I usually fry the egg until the yolk is jammy, or I will just make an omelet. You could just do a sunny side up or an over easy egg, but I find the yolk drips everywhere and it kind of makes a mess. So I prefer to keep the yolks cooked to an extent. And I prefer to keep the shredded vegetables raw and separate from the omelet for the crispy texture. The meat ingredients, sometimes I skip it if I don't have any, but you could also customize this to, like, I don't know, maybe leftover bulgogi or some sliced chicken breast. If you're living overseas, you could probably have, like, a slice of bologna. That would be really good if you are a bologna fan. And if you are a cheese connoisseur, you could probably fancy up the cheese. If you really want to capture the classic Korean takeout flavors, I recommend mixing the cabbage salad into a mixture of equal parts ketchup and mayonnaise. That's called mayonnaise here in Korea. Some of you might be baffled by the flavors, but it is a common salad dressing for that particular cabbage salad that's often served as a side for Korean fried chicken. And another hack for those who want to try the old school flavor combo but cannot obtain the kiwi dressing or are allergic to kiwi is to use strawberry jam or apple jelly, because both are a common pairing for savory street toast here in Korea. It's just a nostalgic flavor for the middle-aged people. Like, when they think of having bread or toast or sandwich, they will often combine strawberry or apple jam with cheese, egg, or even mayo-based potato salad. Like, I know my mom does it. It's not my absolute favorite, but I can see why some people still go for that combo. Like, I know, like, my side of the sandwich is gonna be very unusual for a lot of you, but yeah, this is one aspect of the sandwich culture we have here in Korea. And it's not the only type of sandwich culture here. I just wanted to share something new.
I feel like the closest equivalent, which is not an equivalent, mind you, would probably be like the McGriddle, because that has syrup in it. Yeah. Having a lot of sweets in savory dishes is not super common, I would say, in the States. So I think a lot of people will be like, I don't know about that. But I do want to try it. I'm very, very curious.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to experiment with the flavors, so honestly, if you want to do it all savory, it's totally fine, because, like me, having spent a part of my childhood in the States, it's kind of affected me as well, so, like, it's not that I don't have a sweet tooth at all, but it did affect my preferences for sweet and savory combos. Like, there are certain kind of types of combos that I like and certain types that I do not like.
But yeah, we hope you find a new sandwich to try out. And let us know if you make any of these. Or if you want, send us your recipes, and we'll try them out.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, then please make sure to rate, subscribe, follow, and tell your friends about us. If you want to interact with us or just see more of our content, you can follow the links in the description to our website and social media platforms. More single subs are coming your way soon. Thanks everyone. Bye!
Bye!
다음에 봐요.
안녕.